I've got a problem. I'm on Fulgora, but also I need more Holmium ore. Holmium ore is a 1% drop chance from recycling scrap. So for every unit of Holmium ore I get, there are effectively 99 byproducts that have to be put somewhere or used to make something. I've played nice with the system so far and tried to use almost all the byproduct that my main scrap patch is producing. But I've got a trickle of pink potions going now that is entirely bottlenecked by just Holmium. Maybe this is the part where I'm supposed to scale up, but I don't have the ability to build rails on deep ocean yet, so it ain't happening. So instead what I'm going to do is try my best to forget about thermodynamics and make an assembly line that fundamentally removes 99% of its own output from existence. Seems kinda wasteful, doesn't it? Well, it's already garbage, so it's not like it can get any worse. The first of the 3 R's in recycling is reduce, after all. I don't think it meant to reduce the amount of mass in the universe, but it's fine. The most important part is finding the right location. Scrap patches are almost always on incredibly small islands, so I need to find one with a viable shallow ocean connection to a barren plateau. This looks about right. Scrap mines incredibly fast, so just these 20 big mining drills can saturate 2 turbo belts. That'll get taken away by a 4-wagon reverse train. These reverse trains are great for fitting train stops into islands on Fulgora because the locomotive can park on the ramp. You still need at least one station to ground all 5 segments, but that's easier on the larger islands. This train doesn't go very far. In fact, it barely clears a single screen of distance, but I can't build belts on the ocean yet, so it'll have to do. The wagons are not going to be receiving balanced loads of scrap, but I legitimately don't have the space for a proper balancer while also providing enough power to the mining drills. I can't build electric poles on deep oil ocean either. Just one train won't be enough though. I want at least 2 running this loop continuously so the belt doesn't get backed up. The sheer amount of scrap I'm going to have to sift through for the amount of Holmium I want is ridiculous. I'm not even sure 2 continuous turbo belts is enough. The good news is that since I know that I'm only going to be training 2 belts of throughput, the unloading station can be a bit lax. It'll get unloaded onto 4 belts and then run through the world's laziest balancer before being run through a few dozen recyclers. Thankfully, recycling scrap never produces more product than it consumes in scrap, so I'm still technically only working with 2 belts of product on either end. But since these products have highly variable recycle times and uneven quantities, I'm going to keep it to 4 lanes for now. Now you could be smart and use a parameterized blueprint or program a reactive belt system to redirect recycling products towards dedicated recycling plants. Or you could be a pseudo-intellectual like me and just brute force every damn product all in a row. Iron gears are the most plentiful return from scrap, and thankfully they're by far the easiest. Feed them into recyclers facing each other, and those recyclers will continually spit out iron plates into each other until there's nothing left. In order to try and ensure that every product has sufficient recyclers for reduction, I'm giving them all at least 4 machines. Solid fuel, ice, steel, and copper wire are also gimmies, and they just reduce down into themselves. And oh yeah, they're going to get 4 machines for each lane, with 4 lanes. Now it's not enough to just slap a ridiculous amount of machines at each item and assume it's going to get everything. I also need a system to stop anything from slipping through. And we're going to do that with a belt wired to the last inserter in each chain, set to stop when it detects that item on the belt. This is risky because it has the potential to absolutely murder throughput if I'm not careful, but the same thing can happen with filtered priority splitters, and I like my way better. With about 40% of the total products now accounted for, I neck down the production line to just 2 belts. The products after this point take significantly more work to break down than just chucking it into recyclers that are facing each other, so I don't have the real estate to actually do all 4 lanes for these. Concrete will be first. It's a 6% drop chance, which means it'll have to be pretty robust, but it breaks down into iron ore and stone bricks. So I make a little carousel to sift the output. Next is batteries. Fluid components can't be recycled, so they just break down into iron and copper plates, which is super simple. Now it's red circuits, and those have 3 output components. Worse yet, they can break down into green circuits, which break down into 2 components. Thankfully, the copper wire from breaking down into green circuits can just get shoved into a chest and then inserted into the machines breaking down the copper wire from the red circuits, with the iron plates getting their own machines, and the sorting being done by filtered inserters. And the plastic breaks down into nothing. Now, I sorta lied when I said this machine was going to destroy everything. Blue circuits and LDS are used for making rockets, and they are also a fairly low drop chance, so I set up a cache before their machines to pick them up and store them, with infrastructure for belting them away onto a train later. If I had the space, I'd do this with every item, but I don't. The processing units are a bit of a head-scratcher because they break down into red circuits. So I cheat a bit and just shunt the red circuit output over to the red circuit recycling plant. Blue circuits primarily just spew out green circuits though, and I can just copy and paste the machine from the red circuit build over 4 times to deal with it. Now for LDS. Easier than you'd think. Steel, copper plates, and plastic all break down into themselves. With everything in place, all there is left to do is wait for all the turbo belts to get shipped in from Volcanus and then turn it on. Oh yeah, I should probably also run a rail from here to where I want the Holmium to go. I really should have checked that this was even possible before I started. Statistically, 120 scrap per second can only possibly reduce down to 72 Holmium per minute, so in retrospect, 2 wagons on this train was a bit optimistic. Still waiting on more turbo belts, so I patch over some undergrounds for now. There's always one oversight with a big build like this. I completely forgot to account for stone. I just so happen to have enough space to fit it in on the belts at the last step. Also, concrete has a ridiculously long recycling time compared to everything else, so 8 machines isn't nearly enough. But 4 machines to reduce just the iron ore was overkill, and there's nothing you can't fix with speed modules. The problem with building recycling chains is that you won't get a readout of their throughput until the machines are actually in operation with their dedicated products, so some trial and error is involved. And there it is. A machine that takes 120 items a second and breaks it down into 1.2 items per second. I'm just gonna ignore that. Okay, I double lied. The machine doesn't just make Holmium ore. Turns out, after patching up my purple rocks, I was falling critically low on batteries for electromagnetic science, and I just so happened to be running a 2-wagon train carrying less than 1 wagon of cargo from a machine that creates almost 300 batteries a minute. I did leave myself a bit of space to siphon off product before the voiding line, but it's just easier to cut it off after the neck down. This monstrosity is probably going to be the backbone of any future expansions on Fulgora, but for now I'm welding myself into this mech suit and getting the hell out of this fulminating wasteland. What do you mean I forgot to destroy the copper wire from the blue circuits? And the copper from the LDS is backed up? God. The hopper for blue circuits and LDS I put in immunized the system from its production chain until like 40,000 of each product had been collected, and it broke while I was in Nauvis. Since the islands are too far apart to connect via robot network, I have to go back and manually fix it. It's either that or try and build a remote construction tank out of components just lying around down there, and I don't have engines automated on Fulgora. Thankfully, with the machines now processing the appropriate recipes, I can see the throughput and can adjust accordingly. Also, the backed up resources would be a good stress test for what the system can handle. I was not prepared for the sheer amount of copper wire that blue circuits spit out, and copper plates recycle a lot more slowly than I'd thought. I can just shove the 50,000 copper wire back into some red chests outside of the protection radius of my lightning rods, and it'll go away at some point. And then belt the wire out to more machines with a little catch for iron plates. While I'm here, I might as well spruce up the place with some concrete. And we're backed up on iron gears now? Yeah, it turns out that 8 dedicated iron plate recyclers can't deal with 22 iron plates per second. I don't want to slap more machines onto all 4 lines of the system, nor do I have the space. But I do have space for speed beacons. Beacons and modules means more power demand, but you literally have to automate accumulators on Fulgora, and this is why you should build compact wherever possible. In retrospect, this is just a surge in throughput because the system was backed up for a while, and will settle down over time. But I do want the system to be able to accept more scrap if I end up adding more trains and more scrap patches to the rail network, so it was a decent test run.